Yo, welcome back to Red Marker Radio. Today we have a bonus episode with us today.
Surprise that you didn't expect it, but people wanted a little bit more content, so here we are, bonus episode. So, where did RedMarkerMedia come from?
That's what we're going to start off with today.
That's what we're going to start off with today. So,
Yeah.
back in 2015, 16, that area-ish.
Oh, wow.
I got into it's old. Red Marker. Well, before it was Red Marker Media, it was Red Marker Games, and so I actually I still have a Scratch account. Scratch was like the building blocks of my like I was about to say career. It's not really a career, of the hobby that we've developed into. So Red Marker Games, it was developed on Scratch, literally just as my user profile name. I called it Red Marker Games because I actually didn't have a reason. It was because there was a red marker on my desk. That was literally it. Well, I didn't even know there was a red marker there.
There we go.
Yeah, I came up with the little fist logo. It's always been that logo with the little marker in it. It's a microphone up here, but that's just exclusive to this podcast. But usually it just has the marker in it, and it's been like that for like a decade. I have grown to love it. I had a shirt, Red Marker Games on it, and I still have that shirt. It's definitely an iconic thing. And I made games. Hence Red Marker Games. It was literally just making game platforming, that kind of stuff. I made like storied games. I always snagged music from other sources. I listened to the music all the time, made the games. First game I ever made was called Fruity Fred. And some of my friends, old like ward friends, would know Fruity Fred. And that was literally, you were a little blue box with little box arms, box hands. So basically just a collection of 3 boxes. And you had you were on this like bird's eye view playing field of a gray screen, and there were these mice coming after you, and so they would be coming off from the right side of the screen, I believe. Yeah, the right side, and you were spawned on the left side, and so basically you'd be sitting on the left side of the screen. You kind of have to just defend yourself, and you would throw fruit at the mice, and it would like kill them. So you would throw like apples. You had apples, and so at the beginning it would like progressively, the more mice you defeated, the more like points you got. So that had a point system, and then you would get bananas, and so the bananas were like boomerangs. So you could throw them, and they could like take out multiple mice at the same time. And then you got other fruits like oranges and like strawberries and watermelons. They all had like a different property. So like the oranges could like bounce off the side of the screen, and so they'd KO multiple opponents. And then like the strawberries were like rapid fire kind of thing, and then the watermelons were like bombs. It was really fun, and it was like that was the first game I made. It didn't go viral. It was really just to show my friends, and then I just really had a passion for it. I made a lot of games over the past a lot of years, like a past almost decade. I've been making games, and I've wound down, but the last major game that I made was, at the time, Dr. Russell in the Backrooms, and that game was the kickstart to Red Marker Industries. But when it was Dr. Russell in the Backrooms, I was a sophomore. Yes, I was a sophomore, and I figured I have a lot of extra time, and so I didn't want to spend my time into like after school clubs or like the musical or anything like that. I didn't want to spend my time into doing stuff like that. So instead, I just went home and just spent hours upon hours each day on with what felt like no end making games. And so I was like, why not just make something about my school? And so I made Dr. Russell in the Backrooms, which is literally just a 3D pen engine it used to be, I didn't have a picture of Dr. Russell, so I just went online and I snagged I snagged a PNG, just a box PNG, and I had it like bouncing around. It was the funniest thing. My dad laughed so hard when he saw it at first. He thought it was the funniest thing. And it was just like a little box. And so it would like bounce. And then when it saw you, it would like bounce faster. And it would just like, it would just chase you. It was so funny. And so then people heard about it. And Dr. Russell actually saw it. And he loved it, which completely threw me off. Because I honestly was like, I was thinking he would like kind of not really like it a whole ton or something like that. And then he totally saw it as a good thing. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. And so then I ended up developing it more and more and going back onto it. I actually I took a picture of Dr. Russell and split it into pieces and animated him running, which was which was very fun to do. It was very fun doing that process. And then I also, that summer, I added Mr. Bergeron, and then it's just history. And so, then it developed into Red Marker Media, of which wasn't really started by me, because I honestly, you probably know more than I do, but how did the channel start? Because
Yeah.
I don't have much of a recollection. I really just remember us starting stuff. Like, we just made videos. He made videos and I didn't do that. So when he started making videos, it's like, oh, you can put this on a platform, and they're like, oh, I'll just make them on YouTube. I think that's how it started, right? What do you know?
So it was right when I started the documentary. I started filming the documentary where I had the idea in August of last year, so August of 2023. And I literally just did the documentary so I could get like a more of a feel of the behind the scenes of how something like a musical works. And so, I was just kind of like, oh, I'll voluntarily go to rehearsals to film it. And part of the reason was also, the cast in that show was really fun. So it's just like, oh, I wanted to, spend more time with them, I guess, because I do tech crew and I had been assigned lights for that show, which is a huge job, but I'm usually working. I don't start working on lights until early October, maybe a little bit before fall break. And so I just did the documentary. And when the documentary was nearing its kind of completion, or I had filmed it all, I had finished filming in November. And then from November to April, we were just editing. And it was
forever.
It did take forever.
First time we had used the program, by the way.
Final Cut Pro, yeah. And so we were still learning that program. It took a little while. But I realized that I needed a platform to put that documentary on. And we thought the easiest option would be to start a YouTube channel, right? Which was kind of a cringe idea because it's kind of like, oh, everybody makes a YouTube channel.
I have a YouTube channel.
And so we just needed a place to put that documentary, among other things. And then I was like, oh, you know what? If we do the documentary on that YouTube channel, we could grow this into like more sort of things, right? And so I got these podcast mics for Christmas, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do a podcast. We'll do the documentary, we'll do the podcast, and we'll put it all into one place.
Yeah.
And so the Red Marker thing, the Red Marker Media thing, was really just me. I don't know. I ran out of things to name it, I guess.
I can't remember what the other options were. Well, I also joined this later because I was in The Little Mermaid when he was doing the documentary and shooting all of the footage. And I wasn't really a big part of it at that point. And so then when the editing process came in, I was like, hey, I have a lot of great music you could use. I know a lot of these awesome songs that fit this vibe perfectly. And then I just like kind of joined into it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And the whole Red Marker thing, I just kind of took from the Red Marker games because we had already become popular off of Staff in the Backrooms.
Exactly.
And so people already knew a little bit about what we did. And so we were like, let's just brand ourselves using the Red Marker brand. Because again, I couldn't think of anything. And then that's where we got, Red Marker Water, Red Marker Radio, which was originally not Red Marker Radio. I wanted it, and this is from Braden Wagner. He came up with this, and I thought it was the funniest idea. He thought my podcast should be called Uncensored Brighton CV, but then the B and the S would be highlighted in the logo, so it would look like uncensored BS, which was the funniest idea, and I don't think I could have done it.
And also, it wouldn't have really hit the dynamic of heritage.
No, it would have just
And
been
it also,
me.
and yeah, and it would have just been you. Like, I don't know where I would have fit in if I were to join the podcast, and then here I am. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also at the time, I didn't have a third microphone. We just had these two. So I thought I would just be doing this by myself. And now I'm kind of realizing that doing this by myself wouldn't really be an awesome idea because, that one-on-one stuff, it's better if you just have a second person in that interaction. Yeah.
And like the things that one person misses out, the other one fills up on, especially on like things like making films and doing the documentary and things like that, because the podcast is awesome. I love it so much, but I love doing the documentary a lot, like a little bit more. And it's just, I love the cinematic aspect of making a movie and cueing the music to the, all the footage, all the vibes, the feeling, and just like the mesh of doing that. It's so cool to me. And so when, when he's like, okay, let's do a podcast, my brain instantly went, there's no music on podcasts. But I was like, oh, whatever. There is on this podcast because we have an introduction.
Made by you.
I made myself, yeah. So, yeah, I make music. That's my main thing now. I stopped from making games, and that developed into branching into films and music. So I make music all the time. It's just like something I love doing on the side. I just quickly pop on, make a little bit of music, and then pop off, do some homework, do some chores, all of that. And so then I have to be here because that was one of the biggest limitations of having this channel is there are so many things that I have to be at Brighton's house to work on because the editing software, all of that, all the Final Cut Pro, all of the SD cards, the cameras, everything is here. The podcast mics, this room is here. So I have to constantly make the trip over here, but it's worth it, and it's so fun. And the CVs are very welcoming to let me be here all the time. A couple of 12-hour days, but yeah, I'm very gifted.
Well, you guys see the product of our work, so
yeah,
that's why it's worth it.
Yeah, I love doing it so much. It is such a just getaway of school, especially being seniors, right? So like, I mean, I bet I could attest to the people that aren't seniors too. Just like everybody has that one thing that's just like, oh, I read a book. I just go to bed and I read a book. I go to bed at like 9 and I stay up for like 2 hours and read. Because I know a couple people that do that. And so they're just like, it's so mentally relaxing. I'm like, that's the same thing with me. They're like, what do you do? I'm like, I run a podcast. It's like, it feels like that isn't mentally relaxing, but like, this is so chill. Just like this, the ambience and just like the aesthetic of this room, all of it's just it's so cool to me.
Yeah. Again, this right here is just a chat between ourselves. We might even do more of these in the future.
Yeah.
But I kind of thought that we should introduce ourselves, more our like personal,
right, yeah,
talents and stuff like that. And so just like start off.
Yeah. So I kind of already have showed and told what I do, but most of my life revolves around music and my friends. Like if there are two big things, well, and like the Lord and Spirit and all that stuff, but like if there were two major things in my life, it is my music and my friends. And so like another big part, I'm here all the time, or I'm with Brighton all the time. I'm just with my friends at school constantly. I love being around them. It is so much fun. They make school so awesome. And like when I'm at home or when I'm anywhere, I'll listen to music and there's just like I listen to instrumental things, right? So like the cinematic aspect, I make it, I listen to it, and I learn things from it. It's just like a never-ending supply of just so much entertainment in music. I just find it so entertaining just to listen to music. Like I'll just be sitting in my bed just like staring up at the ceiling listening to like songs or just music, and people would think that's like boring. I'm over here like, this is so cool, So yeah, I love it a lot. I play piano. I've played piano for a long time. Now that Brayden doesn't go to school anymore because he technically graduated early. Congrats to Brayden. He graduated early, so I believe, I don't know, but I believe I hold the spot to the best piano player in the school. I don't want to toot my own horn, and I don't want to put that on me. But yeah. Also, I play clarinet. I play clarinet in the band. I'm in the band. There's only one band as of 2024 to 2025 school year. It is called the Symphonic Band, and there used to be a concert band. We merged it into one giant band, and it's really cool. It is super. I like it a lot. I actually like it a lot more than I thought I would. Um, uh, the people, they're pretty good, talented musicians. And another part on top of that is at the end of the school year, I will be making a completely original composed piece, a suite, if you will. I will make a suite about just the music that I've made in the past, over the past like 5 years. I think I've been making music for about 5 years. Yeah. Over the past about 5 years, I'm going to make some of my best snippets of songs and make it all into just a giant suite. It's going to be like 6 minutes long, a little give or take. And that is one of the biggest highlights of this year. It's going to be. There's probably going to be like 3 of the biggest highlights because most of my life revolves around school. And
Yeah.
like when we're like, oh, introduce yourself, I'm like, well, I'm just mostly at school and I mostly do all the kinds of things at school. Like if there was a reason to just be at school, I'll usually be there just because I love the atmosphere of it so much. We like I'm not a part of tech crew, but I'll go to some of the tech crew meetings just for the fun of it. It's so fun. They're just the people there are so. I love the theater department. I love the teachers there. I love all the teachers at school are awesome, and I love everything about the fine art departments. I'm not super into sports, even though in sophomore year, I did get on the varsity soccer team. So I guess I did sports, but yeah, I love the fine art department a lot. It's just one of my favorite environments to be in. And one thing real quick, Miss Peoples told me I was sitting, it was like the first rehearsal for Tuck Everlasting. Go to Tuck Everlasting, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm the man in the yellow suit. I'm the bad guy. So I'm an insane 60-year-old man. Come see me. It'll be really cool.
Yeah.
So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, Miss Peoples. So it was the first rehearsal of Tuck Everlasting, and then Miss Peoples is like, I'm surprised you didn't do this before Little Mermaid, because Little Mermaid was my first show. I was ensemble. I got bumped straight from ensemble up to lead antagonist, which is kind of crazy. And so I was just like, I told Miss Peoples, I'm like, yeah, no one else in my family really does this kind of stuff like I do. And she's like, well, that's why you have your theater family to do this stuff with. And I was like, yeah, that's super right. And ever since then, it just clicked. I was like, this is awesome. And we do so many things for school that it's going to be hard to give some of it up when we graduate. But if there were 3 things to describe our school year and the best things that we're going to do, RedMarkerMedia is going to go places for school. I'm going to do the song at the end of the year, like I had mentioned prior. That is one of the top 3 things I'm looking forward to this year. That's probably number 3. Number 3 out of 3. The second most like anticipated thing I'm looking forward to this year is the Heritage Haunted House. And so that is going to be, I'm shooting for a whole lot of money.
A whole lot of money. Well, that's not the whole point of it, but like,
it's not the whole point of it, but like that's the stamp of, look, this was successful and people thought it was cool. It's really what you get out of it, because sure, we can do the haunted house, and no matter how many people do or don't go to it, we still love it the same, right? So, or at least I do. So yeah, we can get into the haunted house in a little bit. You can probably talk about that one because I'm a yapper. But and then the number one most anticipated thing for this year is going to be, it's technically 2 things, but it is fallen under the same category. And so it is definitely Tuck Everlasting meeting up with the Tuck Everlasting documentary, because I have thought about that documentary since the end of the Little Mermaid one. Since May, yeah, it is going to be the coolest thing. And I have so many things planned out. We have so many things planned out. Music is already basically chosen and set in stone, and um, shots are underway. We're doing um, rehearsals are going as planned. All of that. We're showing up. We're filming. All we have to do is just let the show take its process, and then we just gotta be like 2 steps behind and just filming the entire thing as it goes, which is just gonna be so cool because I'll be involved with it as an actor and as a documentary director, which is super cool. And so, yeah, that's that's my side. Okay, I'm a yapper, but your turn. What are your
Okay,
things?
yeah. Yeah, no, you get it from Dell, so
I get it from my grandpa Dell. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, my life also revolves around school, just as much as yours does. Um, and it was really interesting because the way like I kind of started was, freshman year I didn't do anything. Like freshman year was not it for me. I needed to kind of solidify my place in like our class just as, I needed to network and meet new people because freshman year was my first year at Heritage. And, I didn't really achieve that. Like I felt like I didn't do enough to reach out to more people. And I remember I was kind of panicking at the end of freshman year that I hadn't done enough to reach out to people. And so there was this one stunt that I did. It was so dumb. I made waffles in class. I think I did it in 2 classes. I brought this whole like little waffle maker and then all the supplies, all the ingredients. First of all, it was kind of expensive. And second of all, it was really dumb because,
What class would you even do that in?
well, I started out in seminary and then I just started, branching out from there.
Okay.
But that was kind of weird. I mean, it was weird now that I think of it, but back then I think it was the only option that I had.
Sounds sick. I didn't know that.
So yeah, I made waffles in class, and the smell would go into the hallways, and people were like, "Oh, who's making waffles?" I just did it kind of as like a kind gesture, and again, I probably could not have done anything else other than that at that time.
Wow, you just okay, I gotta go resort to my last and final option. Make waffles in the middle of class.
Well, that was the only option at the time, actually.
Apparently, you gotta do what you gotta do.
You do. And so actually, when I met Bronson was the very last day of freshman year. We were at Jaden Baker's house, and this is actually before I knew him either. I got invited by Brighton, and so I was there, and you were wearing a NASA hat, a Kennedy Space Center hat specifically, and I just came up to you and we talked, and then after that, we didn't talk for like 3 months, and then it was another party that we ended up like talking more at. But anyway, back to my sophomore year was the beginning of it. I did cross country and I loved it. Cross country was awesome. But I knew that was more of something I didn't want to be competitive in running, and I just wanted to run as, just for sport, just for exercise, but not actually go to competitions. And so I did that from July to November. And November 5th was state, and that was the last day of cross country. And then from there, we transitioned into just like PE or something like that. And so cross country was awesome. Because I wasn't one of the top runners, I really didn't have like too much of an interest in it either. But I mean, it was super fun. It was just like I wasn't one of the top people, and I really didn't think that I could. Not that I didn't think that I could put in the work. I could. But I thought there's maybe something, out there that was slightly more appealing to me. And so I did cross country, and I was just kind of, and this was like when our friend group was very like new. And so we really hadn't, done much. And we heard that Jaden and Austin were in Joseph, and Joseph was awesome. And so we saw that show, and I thought that was super, super cool. And then it wasn't until the December 2022, that's such a long time ago.
That was a while ago.
December 2022 dance and ballroom concerts, where we went And again, this was before Tech Crew or anything. I was just an attendee at that one, and I was watching it. I was watching both of the concerts, and I was like, "Yo, this like blew me away. Like this was the craziest show that I've ever been to. Like it was a whole like another level of just stuff."
Mm-hmm.
And some of our friends were in that concert, and I was thinking, I was like, "That's so cool." Like that they're able to be part of this big show, and same with Joseph. Like that's so cool. And I'm not like an actor or a dancer, and I just could never be part of that. Like I would love to be a part of that group, but I just can't do it because I'm not a dancer or an actor. And so that whole thing kind of infiltrated my mind for like a long time, like several months. I was like, dang, that'd be so nice if I could be part of that, but I can't because I'm not. First, you have to be in the classes, not Joseph, but for dance and ballroom, you have to be in those classes to be in the concerts, obviously. And so I wasn't in any of those classes, and I wasn't planning to take any of those classes, and I was like, all right, whatever, you know. And so to further solidify my place, one thing that actually came back to my mind was Skoko. I was like, wait, freshman year, I was not meeting people. And freshman year was just not, again, it wasn't super appealing to me. And I just needed to, make sure that didn't happen for anybody else in the lower grades or our grades. Like I just needed to make sure that everyone had just like a super hype time. And so sophomore year, um, February or something like that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go in and I'm going to make the decision to run for Skoko. And I had actually run for Skoko freshman year in 2022, and I lost to Marie. Marie is awesome, by the way, and she definitely deserved that one. And so,
Which is funny. I was a voter. I was one of the voters for that election, and I don't even remember Brighton going up, which is just
yeah,
so funny. I didn't remember it. Now we're here.
yeah, it
Anyway,
was one of
yeah.
those things where I put it like it was kind of a last minute thing, and then I put it together this presentation, and then I bought like Oreos for everybody. And again, people weren't super interested, but I still had good ideas. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go again, and I'm just gonna campaign, just hit the ground running, talk to everybody that I knew at the time, which wasn't a super big group of people, but the more people I could talk to would be awesome. It's like a regular campaign, right? And so I made my whole Secretary CV logo and my whole brand off of that. And I get up. Let's see. I walk up to the sign up sheet one day, and there was like three other people running against me, and I was like, it was the most popular position to run for.
Dang.
And I was like really panicking because I was like, these are all people that have more experience than I do. They know more people than I do. They might even have better ideas, a better campaign. I have no idea. Anyway, two of those didn't finish their paperwork, which left me and one other person. And, I went up there, I ran. Again, I actually bought Jamba Juice smoothies for everybody, and that was super fun. That was awesome. I talked to a lot of the current SCOCO people about things that I could do to try to win. I talked to Higgins, and I gave my presentation. I had a slideshow. I had a speech. I had like stickers that people could wear, and I went up there and I was just kind of like, so when you're in SCOCO and you give the speeches to electors, basically you guys go one-on-one or one by one, I should say, and you can't see the other opponents or like the other candidates' speeches unless you're an elector. And so I remember walking out of there and I was like, okay, I did as best a job that I could, but I just don't know. It was uncertainty. Like that's all it was. And so I'm sitting there, can't even remember what class I was in, to be honest. It might have actually been math or something. No, it was history. It was history. This is all coming back to me. Bronson was in that
Oh, I
class.
was there.
And
Yeah.
and Higgins reads out the names of the winners. And I had actually, because I was so nervous that I thought I didn't win, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, like, I literally got up out of my seat and I went over to like this stack of papers, pretending like I was organizing them, because if I had lost, I'd be like busy, I guess. I'd be working, so it didn't look as awkward. I mean, I would have been chill either way, but again, I really wanted that position that time. And I was called the winner, and there I am with my stack of papers trying to like fake pretend, that I was, doing work and that I didn't hear it. And the crowd, the classroom just went nuts. I mean, they went crazy for that. And so I got in, and that SCOCO year was awesome, and it was wonderful. And, obviously, I'm still the secretary now. And anyway, that was kind of off to the side. But as far as, I kind of want to go into tech crew a little bit. As far as tech crew, it wasn't until like February of that year. Actually, this is before I ran for SCOCO. Jaden was like, hey, I'm going to join tech crew, which is an idea that I had for a little while. I just didn't know how to do it. So I literally just followed Jaden into a show one time. And then I just was backstage during a choir concert, and Max was there, and he was like, oh, hey, do you want to get on comms with me? And so like I would take his comms position sometimes, or during that concert. And that was like the most fun thing. So anyway, I ended up joining tech crew, signing up for more shows. First real show that I did was a play called Trap. It was an honors drama play. I was just a stagehand, and I moved a table and a chair on stage.
Wow,
like
you remember.
Twice.
You
Yeah.
remember.
Oh yeah, I remember all of it. And then I actually wore these like glasses with these red lights, and I had to go out on stage and say some creepy lines in the dark. It was really interesting. And that was my first show, so it was kind of weird. And then after that, we had another creepy show, Addams Family. Addams Family was fun. I actually did that show with Brady. So Brady and I were stagehands for that show. And I was responsible for carrying like this movable door on stage and then moving it back off. And it was actually pretty fun. And that Addams Family was the first time that I met a lot of like the old seniors, like Parker and Danny and Morgan
Yeah.
and
David.
Actually, I think I knew David a little before that.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was just like, I love this. This is awesome. This was the era of Colin Comedina, Spencer Christensen, and those guys have now graduated, or they graduated last year. And so I was the last one left from that era before all the new kids came in. And so I was just like, you know what? Because I'm the oldest here, I'm just going to see what I can do to, do my best to really just kind of work my way up the ranks. And just because I was a stagehand, I was backstage all the time, and I kind of wanted to do something in the booth. And so that May, I did a dance concert. I did the sound for the dance concert. That was really easy, but I had a lot of fun, and that was my first like exposure to actually working the dance concert and not just watching it. And that was the first time I met Mr. Ray, and it was a fun time. It was really good. And so come back from summer, and Miss Peoples like, hey, do you want to maybe think about working lights for Little Mermaid? And I was like, I can do anything that you want me to do. Like, seriously, this was like my kind of moment. And so Little Mermaid comes around. That was the first major show that I did, and I was doing lights on Little Mermaid, and that was like awesome. Like, that was seriously one of the most fun things. And I was filming the documentary at the time, so I was doing like a dual thing. But doing lights for Little Mermaid, I actually just on Thursday, so 2 days ago, I was teaching some kids lights, and I literally brought up the Little Mermaid show bank, and I ran all of those light cues from memory. So I still got it. Little Mermaid was awesome. And then December comes around. I finally get to do lights for the dance concert, and you know, actually being able to, you know, be kind of the top tech crew person. That's when I first got to wear the dance company jacket. That was awesome. And they really appreciate, or yeah, they expressed a lot of appreciation for that show. And I really enjoyed doing that. And then some more shows. Then I did the May dance concert, and that was also like another highlight. And I can do those. I think I could do both of those shows from memory too, which is awesome. It's like 240 something cues.
Bruh.
But anyway, awesome stuff. That's basically how. And then in between that, starting this podcast, doing the documentary, and all of that. So that's just kind of my personal experience. And as far as the future, I think, you know, continuing to do this, continuing to do lights. I mean, we're gonna have some really fun projects coming up soon.
And then, I'm just gonna touch on like a couple of things, just real quick. One, when he was secretary last year, it's not this year, last year before that, the one where he won and then he followed, and that was his first year being secretary. I was in English 102 at the time, so it was the end of second semester. Yeah, second semester. I was in English 102, and it was during 2B, which is, I remember that because it's the Scholar Council hour, and Rosemma, because Rosemma was also she was also in SCOCO, and Brighton, they basically barged into the English room, and they're like, hey, we're in SCOCO. We need to see Bronson. And I was like, okay, whatever. I know exactly what they're going to tell me. So then we go down the elevator, down to the second floor. I go into the SCOCO room, and everyone's just sitting there waiting for me. And I was like, okay, I already know what this is about. And so then they attempted to convince me to run for SCOCO because they, from what I heard, there wasn't a set in stone roster that they wanted yet for Scholar Council. So they were like, you should run for vice president because we don't have anybody that's doing vice president right now. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sure. Like I thought about it for a while, and then like the more I thought about it, the more I realized how optimal it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up running. I lost. Womp.
Yeah.
I totally ended up losing. I lost to Ammon Peterson. W to Ammon.
He did a good job, and he's still doing a good job. But
Ammon
you can explain
Ammon
that.
is doing really well. Ammon is doing really well. And then I'm gonna try and simplify this story, but I was in musical theater, so it was what hour is that? 3B, right? Yes, 3B. So at the time it was 3B. I go to musical theater, and that was when the ballots were in right after the election. So I had done the thing. This is when I was figuring out that I lost. The announcement goes on. It's not my name. It's Ammon's name. And I'm like, dang. Sat back in the chair I was in. I was like, dang, okay, whatever. Went to fourth hour. Fourth hour was music theory and songwriting at the time. So then I text my mom, and I'm like, hey, I didn't win. And my sister also ran, and she didn't win. We kind of both got trolled. It was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
And so we both got trolled. And then I text my sister and my mom. I'm like, hey, can you just like sign us out? Like, I don't need to be in this class. Like, I have 100 in this class. I don't need to be here. It's fine. And so I was like, yeah, okay, I understand. So then she signs me out. And then, the front, there's a call that is from someone calling up to my, to the room. And then the teacher answers it. And then she's like, oh, Bronson, they want you down at room 240. And I was like, or 241? 241? Something like that. The Scholar Council room. And so I was like, okay. So because I initially thought it was like, oh, Bronson, you're being signed out. And so I was like about to grab my stuff, and it's like, oh, you can leave your stuff here. I'm like, oh, okay. Because you're going to room 241 or whatever room it is. And so I was like, okay. So I walk down there. I exit out of the stairwell, and the opposing stairwell, Ammon exits out of that stairwell at the same time. And I was like, shoot, what happened? And so then we walk up. We both walk into the SCOCO room. And then Donlan's like, I'll talk to you outside. And I was like, all right. So then we walk out. We're just standing at the hallway. Both me and Ammon were like, what is happening? This is so weird. And so then Donlan walks out, and she's like, so we Lopez and I, we thought about it, and we want both of you to do it. And so I was like, really? I was like, actually, okay. I was like, perfect. And then she was like, is that okay with you? I'm like, that's perfectly fine with me. It just depends on Ammon. He's the one who won. So then they looked at Ammon, and Ammon was like, yeah, sure. So boom. Then I was in SCOCO. It was the craziest thing. And so then I was like, I'm all like, okay, I've got a little pep in my step. I'm all happy. And then I go back to class. And then the phone rings again. And it's like, Bronson, you're being signed out. And I'm like, oh, crap. I was like, oh, well, so then I went and I drove home. I drove my sister. And I didn't want to, like, because she was sad. So I didn't want to be like, well, I made it. So I was like, just trying to chill and just keep the mood flowing. So I was just like, okay, listen to music on the car ride home, dropped her off. And then I talked to my mom, I'm like, so I totally actually made it. And she was like, huh? It was really funny. Anyway, and the rest is history. So,
Yeah.
and then that and the next Red Marker Media event, which I think this will probably be the last thing we touch on, right? Right?
Yeah.
The Heritage Haunted House. We have spent loads upon loads of time
And money.
and a whole lot of money.
Yeah, a whole lot of
A
money.
whole lot of money on this event. So we haven't even started setup. We've done planning, but we've already spent a lot of money on it. And so it's going to be really cool. We actually, over 4th of July, almost all of my friends and his friends, our friends, almost all of our friends were out of town. They were all either doing something or they were at like, oh, I'm at my grandparents' house. Oh, I'm at, well, whatever, Thatcher, Payson. Someone was in Canada. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But so they were all places, and I was like the only one that was home. And I was like, oh, okay. So I spent my 4th of July playing Minecraft, and I made the entire academic building of Heritage in Minecraft. And this is completely a side topic. People are like, what does this have to do with me? Well, my dad, he wanted to help out with the haunted house, and so he didn't know what the school really looked like. And so I was like, well, I built the entire school in Minecraft. It's very accurate. I'm very proud of it. So on that school, we have planned out almost everything in the haunted house. We have it to scale model. It's going to be really cool. And boy, this is like our event.
Mm-hmm.
This is like our big event. And if you go to Heritage Academy or not, if you live in Arizona somewhere, please come to our haunted house. We're turning our entire 4-story building into a full-fledged haunted version of Heritage Academy. And it's going to be animatronics, actors, music, sound, lighting. It's going to be completely different. And the coolest part is that if you're a Heritage scholar, you're going to go and be like, wait, this is my class that I go to for this, but it's haunted and it's different. It's going to look so cool. We've had so much time to plan this. We did this last year. It made a few grand. It was really good. Well, the whole event with the carnival and everything made a few grand. It was really good. Next year, we want to top that, and we want to do really well. But we need your support. So, I think that's a good way to close it. You have anything to say at the end?
No. Thank you for hanging out with us. Red
Thank
Marker
you for listening to us. Yeah.
Radio chats, and just cue the outro.
It was super long. Holy cow.